Just kidding. I do want to go home with you.
Yeah.
And so that's why he hung around so long.
Yeah. From that point, his actions for the night are pretty well documented. He left the party. He went back to Pam's house. He got Pam, got her in the car. They went to his parents' house to collect his children. Talk about awkward, showing up at 3 or 4 in the morning with your girlfriend.
No idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, breeder reactors are one of those dealios. You know, most reactors create just waste, whereas these things are built to actually create things like plutonium. Yeah.
Plutonium, that's one of those things that we're not supposed to have.
Waste.
Yeah.
Got
it.
Yeah. So it was believed, according to Chandler, that the killing was linked to his recommendation. Apparently, it was a revenge kind of thing. You know, they were angry, and so they killed him.
Sure.
But of course, that leaves the question: was Dr. Dalton, who actually made the original recommendation, was he killed too?
I don't believe so.
I don't think he was, and he was actually the original sinner in this case. So that's kind of weak tea, frankly. Another one was that he was involved, of course, in research on masers, and some people claim that his research was actually top secret research. I've never really confirmed that. And he was due, of course, to leave Cicero in a few weeks to go work in the U.S. at Bell Labs. And of course, Bell Labs does have some highly secret defense contracts. Whether Bogle was going to be actually, in on those, I don't know. But he had been checked by the FBI before he got the Bell job. He had to be cleared by them. And apparently, they didn't have a problem with him. Another report suggests that he was bumped off by the KGB to stop his research. But again, why aren't scientists dropping like flies? Because even though Bogle was a very smart guy, let's face it, there were other smart scientists out there too.
Scientists as a group tend to be pretty intelligent.
Weird,
often, yeah. And another claim was that the CIA killed him because he was a double agent who was selling secrets to the Soviets. And again, okay, so he was a double agent, so he was working for ASIO and the KGB? I don't know. And again, as always in this killing, also Chandler was just collateral damage.
Yeah.
And
she seems to be kind of collateral damage in a lot of these.
Yeah, and of course, this was the Cold War. There was lots of paranoia and conspiracy theories were kind of rampant. Yet another suggestion that somebody made, God knows who, originally, he was handing over his super secret agent role to Margaret Chandler. And the reason they went to the river, it was to retrieve a hidden object at a, quote, drop that was under the water, which could only be reached at low tide.
Yeah, that's dumb.
It's dumb, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't...
There's no point for her to be secret agent.
Okay.
She doesn't strike me as secret agent material. But anyway, in this theory that while they were busy retrieving this object, whatever it was, enemy agents appeared, stripped them naked, killed them by holding poisonous substances over their faces, and then dropped their bodies, covered them up a little bit, and then they did get away.
Wait. Now, he had that square of carpet, so what's the carpet got to do with it?
The carpet was just to get down to the river's edge, and presumably they had to kneel down to reach down into the water to get to this hidden object and this hidden drop. So the carpet was just like to kneel on or to walk on.
Them. Yeah. Although I guess it's possible that they were naked from the waist down because they were trying to protect their clothes while they were kneeling in muddy, gross area.
Yeah, the river was pretty disgusting and polluted.
Yeah.
So that's possible.
That is.
I don't know. Anyways, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's validity to that, but I'm not going to buy into it.
No,
but
it's
I can
dumb.
see how people could go for that.
Okay.
Well, people like this kind of stuff. That's why it's popular.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's true or not.
Why do you think so many spy books are written?
Really?
Yeah, not that many good ones, unfortunately. Let's see what else we have here. There was, in the 1980s, journalists used the Freedom of Information Act in the U.S. to get declassified documents which showed that J. Edgar Hoover, you guys probably know that name, right?
Yep.
Indeed.
Had discussed the case with the New South Wales police. And I'm not sure. I mean, I seem to recall hearing something about there was a little bit of cooperation because the FBI, of course, has labs that can do very sophisticated analysis.
Yeah.
So there's nothing necessarily sinister about cooperation between the New South Wales police and the FBI.
Yeah, I don't see anything hinky there.
Some people have said the FBI may have conducted its own investigation of the murders, which I don't have any evidence for. And others have said that the U.S. and Australian governments have been unusually secret about this case. And then because
they have no information about it.
Exactly, they had nothing to say about it, I think. So no, there's I don't think any of these theories, any of these espionage, FBI, all that stuff. I don't think any of them really hold any water at all.
I agree.
I'm on the same page.
So does anybody else have any theories they want to share?
You know we do.
Of
I
course,
know.
Joe. We have another one which is a little bit kooky, which is that it was a sex drug or some kind of fun drug, whatever a fun drug
That
may
they
be,
took themselves.
that
right?
they took themselves, self-administered, that they overdosed on.
Oops.
Yeah, oops.
Yeah, if it's gonna make it more fun than taking 5 times as much, it's
gonna make it
Five
really
times.
fun.
Yeah, I guess.
That's not just disclaimer. No,
No.
don't.
Don't do that. It
Don't
doesn't
do it.
work. As we've talked about earlier, the police had initially decided and come to the conclusion that they had been poisoned or they had potentially overdosed on a drug.
not an unreasonable.
No,
Yeah.
especially when there's no outward signs of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
This is a logical conclusion.
Yeah.
This theory, the sex drug theory, centers around the idea that they decided, the pair, Dr. Bogle and Mrs. Chandler, Gibb and Margaret, decided, hey, let's take something to heighten the experience, to increase the fun, and just make this sexual experience out of this world. I know.
Yeah.
I know. The problem is, of course, that there was extensive testing done to the tissues taken from the bodies, and no substances were ever found. And I mean extensive. Every bit of usable tissue sample that was available was tested.
Yeah, I think the coroner eventually ran out of tissue samples. to
Yeah.
test it. Yeah. Yeah, he did a lot of testing.
He did a lot of
did.
testing, and I don't remember. Maybe one of you can help me out here. I think it's the liver and maybe another organ that they
I
used.
think they did the liver. I think they did some muscle tissue.
Yeah.
I think they did, kind of the standard stuff that filters or holds on to some of that stuff.
Yeah,
You can't
the
find
liver would be a
anything.
logical place to look.
Yeah.
But if you've got 2 people, that's a lot of samples.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I wonder how much they weighed when they were buried.
I don't know. But they took a lot of samples, and in the end, they were all used up. There's been a lot, and I mean a lot, of speculation that the couple took LSD. The thing that you need to understand is that at this time, LSD wasn't a popular drug in Australia, and there wasn't a good known way to test for it.
Yeah.
They didn't have we'll run this test to see if you've been on LSD. That wasn't developed at that time. And it's also important to point out from the research that I've done, it's nearly impossible to overdose on LSD. Most folks that die from taking the drug is not the drug itself, but their subsequent actions thereafter.
Yeah, although it's probably worth mentioning that with all of these allegations of LSD were the allegations that the LSD that they had taken had been made by Dr. Bogle in their lab.
So it was impure or
Well,
overly
yeah,
pure?
that it
or
could have
laced?
been messed up somehow
Possibly.
or something.
Yeah,
That's
it may
just-
not have been pure LSD.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, typically LSD is usually cut with something, usually speed, to enhance the hallucinogenic properties of it, because LSD is actually not a terribly hallucinogenic drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I don't, but again, I don't see.
yeah, regardless, I mean, it's people die typically
Because of what they're doing.
because whether they're on a good trip or a bad trip, they put themselves into a situation that is dangerous and they pay the price for that.
Yep.
So the whole LSD sex drug fun time overdose, it's got some big holes in it.
Yeah.
No, kind of. I don't see anything in here about marijuana overdose.
No.
Is it my turn? Cool. My first theory is the jealous lover theory, which makes sense a little bit.
There's been a lot of songs about jealous lovers, so I
Yeah.
can see how that would be.
There are three kind of main possibilities here. I'm going to start with the dumbest one first.
Okay.
So one of the things we glossed over was this eyewitness who's actually fairly important to the case, named Mr. Chehalis. Is that how you would say that? Chehalis?
Yeah, Chehalis. I would say.
Chehalis?
It looks like Chehalis or Chalice and Chalice.
Chalice?
Chalice.
Chalice?
Chalice?
Chehalis.
Chalice in the palace.
No, Chehalis. Anyway, however you say his name, Mr. Chehalis actually saw...
Chalice.
Chehalis.
Chalice.
I think it's Chalice.
I'm going to talk about him more in a minute, but just trust me on this one. He's an eyewitness, and he, at about the time that they placed the death of Dr. Bogle and Mrs. Chandler, Gibb and Margaret, saw a yellow, quote, yellow blondie-haired man.
Blondie-haired?
Yeah, that's what it said. Fleeing across the street, this path that he was driving on, pretty dang close to where they ended up finding Margaret's body.
I'm sure he wasn't just a jogger.
He was... the impression that I have is that it's just kind of a little strip. There's the road, and then there's a strip, and then it's the river.
It's kind of a walking path.
Yeah.
Can run on top of water, because he darted across the road towards the river. It's totally possible he was a transient. Any of those things. Regardless, the speculation is that, maybe that was Margaret's not Gibb lover, and he was jealous and somehow knew where they were and somehow killed them.
Somehow figured that out, yeah.
It's dumb. Yeah, you're looking at me like it's dumb because it's dumb. I'm just saying things that I've seen.
Did the police put out an APB on yellow blondie-haired man?
No, they did not. No. Next up is Margaret Fowler. She was one of Gibb's lovers. They had been seeing each other for a while, actually. I think it was like more than 3 years.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. She worked at Cicero with Dr. Bogle, and he tried to break it off a couple times, and she would say things like, "Oh, I'll die if you do." She also told the police during the investigation that she was going to move to America with Dr. Bogle, with Gibb, and they were going to get a flat together. That was what was happening. She was going to go to New York with him when he left for America.
No, I thought he was going to take his family with him.
No, well, that's not what she said. That's not what Margaret Fowler said.
Wow.
Just saying.
Yeah,
she was crazy.
I'm
she
just
was
thinking about
crazy.
all of it. We've all seen Stress. Mm-hmm. He said this, and he loves this, and he can't quite leave him yet, but we're making plans. Like that. That's what that sounds like to me.
There are two main things here. The theory goes that Mrs. Fowler, Margaret Fowler, as I said, there's lots of Margarets in this story.
Yeah.
She wasn't even at the New Year's party. She's not part of the 5 people that were named Margaret at the New Year's party.
Oh, that's right. She wasn't
even invited to that. The theory is that she somehow knew where they were going to be and maybe followed them from the party, or maybe that was Gibbs' Lover's Lane place of choice, and
where
somehow
she overpowered them.
Yeah, where she overpowered both of them and murdered them somehow. It's not great. The only thing that does add a little credence to this theory is a man was interviewed later named Mr. Carlson, sorry. And he said that he saw Margaret Fowler a couple days after the murder, before it was huge news, before it had really blown
up.
Yeah, and she said, "Oh, they're dead." And Mr. Carlton said, "Well, who?" And she said, "These 2 people, Margaret and Gibb." And then she kept repeating, they were going to cop out and it's all going to come out, and was talking about chemical warfare and things like that. She's kind of crazy.
She said...
Seems super crazy anyway.
She seemed unstable.
She did seem unstable, but it is worth mentioning, I think, that she did kind of implicate herself to at least one witness, saying they were going to, it's all going to come out, and that Margaret and Gibb were somehow working together on chemical warfare, and they were going to release it, and that's why they were murdered.
I'm going to say right now, I can see that being as simple as it's all going to come out. Our relationship,
that's my
our
too.
On the down low relationship is going to come out.
Yes.
That makes
but then
more sense,
within a couple weeks, she had no problem talking about the relationship, no problem.
Well, she's also one of the witnesses, if I remember correctly, that never actually testified at the inquest.
Yeah, and
because of the morality reason.
Well,
Yeah, but
she was married also, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But she was also the one who said that she saw Gib and Margaret getting busy in the bushes at the Christmas party. She was
At the barbecue?
eyewitness. Yeah, the barbecue. Yeah.
Okay.
So worth mentioning.
Why didn't she murder him then?
Because she
Witnesses?
didn't know
Oh,
it was so much of a thing. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Another player that we haven't really discussed yet is Ken Nash, the host of the party, the New Year's party.
Mm-hmm.
As we said, he was the one dispensing drinks the whole night. And as it turns out, he was mildly obsessed with this case and killed himself 13 years, give or take a day, to the day, after Margaret and Gib had been found dead.
But although there was another significant anniversary.
Also worth mentioning is that, on or about that day 2 years prior, his wife Ruth had died of cancer, so take that with a grain of salt. But since he was the one dispensing drinks, he could have easily slipped the pair something. It's thought that he could have done that and it may have been a prank, but also maybe he was in love with Margaret too. Who knows?
So he killed her.
So he killed her and Gib.
Well, Gib was known to his friends as a bit of a prankster, so I can see where this has some traction. Well, Gib played a prank on him at work, and he thought, well, I'll get him. And he's hanging out with Margaret. Well, she's there too. I'll put it in both their cups.
That explains a lot, actually. He slipped laxatives into both their drinks because all the feces.
But it wouldn't kill them that fast.
No.
Oh no, but they were tainted laxatives.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess worth noting is that it does seem like Ken Nash was kind of a boring dude. So I don't know why he would suddenly think, I don't know, I'll prank him. That'll be fun. He seemed really boring. He only gave people 2 drinks.
He's a square.
He was kind of a square,
so why would he be suddenly doing that? That doesn't fit with his personality profile.
Well, you might consider doing something like that, but slipping deadly poison into their drinks, that's not really a prank.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he misjudged the dosage. It's
wildly, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna make him a little ill. I'm just gonna screw with him a little bit. Oops, I dumped the whole vial in. Oh well, I'll mix it between the 2 drinks. That'll dilute it enough.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where that runs.
Well, and this actually flows into my next theory, which is poisoning of some kind, right? We have been talking about poison. Let's keep talking about poison. And like I said, despite Ken's insistence that he'd, quote, dispensed no more than 2 drinks per guest, there are a lot of reports that both Margaret and Gib looked pretty drunk by the end of the night. They had glassy eyes, they were hunched over. Their reports were drunk, but what people are describing is they were looking very ill. Very pale, kind of sweaty, clammy, glassy-eyed, hunched over.
It's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Even if you're not drunk, you're tired at 2 a.m, you're gonna not look your best.
Well,
I'm just gonna say that now, just so that people keep that in mind.
And also, you got to remember too that just because he was only serving up 2 drinks didn't mean people had the flasks with them and stuff like that.
Sure.
True.
Yeah. Well, but I do think it's probably worth mentioning that it seems people noticed this as more of an acute thing. It wasn't like a gradual progression of them kind of getting sleepy and hunching over and getting glassy-eyed and slowly getting drunk. It was that they were talking to them and then 5 minutes later they looked pretty ill.
I again, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm just trying to flesh this out and see what else could come of it. If they've decided we're going to have this tryst, but we're in this awkward situation in this social environment where Gib doesn't want everybody to know that he's out playing the field, and Margaret's a little shy about that. I can see that it being a bit of nerves. Do you know where I'm heading with this? Where I'm gonna do this thing, but I'm kind of nervous because everybody's around, and I don't know how to like get out of here and not make it obvious.
Well, they weren't being very secretive of it. They had told the Nashes that Gib was taking Margaret home.
But that could have been under the illusion of, hey, guess what? Drunk Jeffrey's not here.
It could, but that's the same. So they leave together. So he's being a good guy and giving her a ride home. The nerves of it, I don't know.
People
also,
get really weird and awkward about that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about your friends when they meet somebody and they're gonna go off together for the first time to hook up or whatever the case may be. And I've seen friends who are a little weird about the whole thing. You watch it, and it's like, what is going on? You don't look right. Are you okay?
Are you in high school?
I have seen it in high school. I have seen it in college. I have seen it in my 30s.
See,
I have seen people do this. And these people, she was late 20s, he's his late 30s. People still act like that.
Fair.
Especially in a kind of a repressed era. I mean, it's 1950s, early 60s. It's, I can see that going against some societal norms and causing some butterflies in the stomach.
Okay.
That's just my take on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, but again,
Dispute it as much as you want, or we can continue on.
Yeah,
I'm
let's-
okay with it.
and again, people have a way of modifying and reinterpreting their own memories. Memory is not an accurate thing.
That's true. So let's just continue here for
Have you
Yeah,
guys
let's.
considered maybe they drank some antifreeze?
I didn't, but let's continue on with what Devin has.
Let's just
All
keep
right.
going. So, like I said, it's possible they were poisoned. Before we went on this weird side quest. And
Side quest!
Ken would have pretty much been the only one to have been able to poison them. This wasn't the kind of party where you were just leaving your drink everywhere. People pretty much had their drinks in hand, and there was food at the party, but it was all buffet style. So for them to have been the only ones to have gotten sick, there's really no way that it could have been the food. And it couldn't have been food poisoning because of that same thing. We're talking malicious poisoning here, right?
So not accidental.
Not accidental, not, we accidentally took too many drugs, we took it. We're talking about somebody slipping them something at some point. Interestingly, aside from actual consumption, drink or eating poison, there have been some suggestions about aerosol poisons.
What?
Yeah, the gas poisons that would be in an aerosol form. One suggestion is that it could have been a can that was placed under the pedals of Gibbs' car, that when he accelerated it would have dispensed it, and
So
it would
this
have
is
filled
kind
the
of
car.
this is almost going in tandem with Joe's.
This is a KGB kind of thing.
It's an
Is-
assassination sort of
Yeah,
thing.
it's a very cloak and dagger way to go about it. Okay.
Yeah. So that was suggested. It was also suggested that somebody could have come and sprayed them in the face with aerosol of some kind.
At some point.
At some point, there's some very interesting aerosol suggestions. And in fairness, when Gibbs' car was found, his keys were tucked behind his
Visor?
sun visor. So
Everybody,
it would have been.
Devin was making that
Oh, sorry.
motion of
Yeah,
moving the
I
sun
couldn't remember.
visor down.
Yeah. So it's possible that if somebody had placed an aerosol can under a pedal, that it's not such a problem that it was not there when the police searched the car because it could have been removed.
Yeah, but just imagine it. You get in the car, you step on the gas, and you hear this sound.
Yeah.
And if they got the
I've
spray,
had junkers that made funny noises. And I
Well,
think I would
his
even
car was
hear
not a
that.
junker.
Yeah, his car. He had a
Yeah.
decent
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
and as far as getting sprayed in the face by somebody, well, I know what would have happened then. They would have their last dying moments crawled over to the muck and scrawled the name of their murderer in the muck.
No.